The concept of fallen angels is one that has intrigued theologians, philosophers, and believers for centuries. To understand why God does not destroy them, we must first explore who these beings are and what their role is in the spiritual realm. Angels, in the biblical context, are created beings designed to serve God and carry out His divine will. In the Christian faith, angels are often seen as messengers and servants, executing God's plans in the heavenly realm and sometimes intervening in human affairs. The Bible tells us that angels were created by God, and they were initially good, holy, and pure. But among them, a rebellion began to stir. The most significant of these fallen angels is Lucifer, who would later be known as Satan. According to Christian tradition, Lucifer was once a high-ranking archangel known for his beauty, wisdom, and proximity to God. He was created perfect, but something within him led him to desire more, to become like God. This pride was his downfall. As described in Isaiah 14:12-15 and Ezekiel 28:12-17, Lucifer's arrogance led to his rebellion against God. He wanted to ascend above the heavens, to exalt his throne above that of God, and to be worshipped as the Most High. Lucifer's fall from grace is often interpreted as the ultimate example of pride leading to destruction. But what exactly did it mean for him and his followers, the other angels who sided with him? The book of Revelation reveals that a third of the angels were cast down with Lucifer, effectively creating the fallen angels who now oppose God's kingdom. It's important to understand the nature of these beings. Angels, both good and bad, are created beings with free will, much like humans. They were given the choice to worship and serve God willingly, but Lucifer's rebellion represents a rejection of that divine authority. This rebellion wasn't just a one-time event. It is the beginning of an ongoing battle that continues in the spiritual realm. This is where the problem begins. God, in His perfect wisdom and love, granted His angels free will. Just as humanity was given free will to choose good or evil, so too were the angels. But in choosing rebellion, Lucifer and his followers set themselves on a path of separation from God. The reality is, these angels chose their fate. They decided to follow Lucifer, rejecting God's authority and His goodness. But God, in His omniscience, knew that this was a possibility. So why then did He allow it to happen? The answer lies in the nature of free will. Free will is an essential part of what it means to be created in the image of God. To truly love God, one must have the ability to choose Him freely. If God were to force beings to love and serve Him, it would not be true love. It would be mere obedience through coercion. True love can only exist when a person or being has the ability to choose. This is why, in the heavenly realm, even the angels were given this freedom. But once Lucifer and his followers made their choice, their rebellion created a rift between them and God. The angels who followed Lucifer became what we now know as fallen angels, and their purpose changed. They are no longer messengers of God, but rather they now serve as agents of opposition. They are the adversaries, the deceivers, and the tempters. The concept of the fallen angels also ties into the idea of sin. In Christian theology, sin is not just the wrong actions or behaviors, it is a state of separation from God. Lucifer, in his rebellion, rejected God's will, and this act of rejection caused a profound break in his relationship with God. It wasn't just an external action, it was a fundamental change in the nature of his being. Sin had entered into his heart, and with it, the fallen angels. Yet despite their fall, God allowed them to continue existing. But why didn't God destroy them immediately? If God is all-powerful, why didn't he simply eliminate these beings who opposed his divine will? The answer to this question can be found in God's justice, mercy, and sovereignty. God is not just a God of judgment, but also of grace and patience. He allows for free will and gives every being the opportunity to make choices, even if those choices are not in alignment with his will. The fallen angels, like humanity, have been given the opportunity to choose, but they have rejected it. And yet, their existence serves a greater purpose in God's plan. God uses their rebellion to showcase his glory, justice, and the true nature of evil. In allowing the fallen angels to exist, God demonstrates his infinite patience and how he, in the end, will conquer evil once and for all. He uses their opposition as part of his divine narrative, a narrative that will ultimately bring about the redemption of humanity and the restoration of the universe. The existence of fallen angels is also a testament to God's commitment to justice. As we will see in later parts of this video, God allows for the consequences of their rebellion to unfold, but he also ensures that, in the end, justice will be served. The fallen angels have their role to play in the larger cosmic drama, but their ultimate defeat is assured. So, as we delve deeper into the question of why God doesn't destroy the fallen angels, we must remember that their existence is part of God's larger divine plan. It is not a sign of weakness or neglect, but a testament to his infinite wisdom and his respect for the free will he granted to all of his creations. The fallen angels, in their rebellion, have been allowed to serve their purpose in the grand story of redemption, but their fate is already sealed. In the endless silence before creation, there existed a law, not written on stone, not spoken aloud, but woven into the very structure of reality. It was the law of divine order. When God breathed existence into being, he also set boundaries that even he, in his perfect justice, would honor. For God is not chaos. He is order, truth, and righteousness. His word is his bond. Once he declared, "The gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable," those words became eternal. The fallen angels, though corrupted, though drenched in rebellion, still carry the remnants of what they once were, eternal spirits. And what is eternal cannot simply cease to exist. God could destroy their power, bind their influence, cast them into darkness, but annihilation would mean breaking his own decree. It would mean undoing his own perfection. The universe operates on the laws he set forth: truth, justice, and free will. To erase them entirely would violate the very order he created. The fallen chose their path, and now they live within the consequences of that freedom. The angels who fell with Lucifer are prisoners of their own decision, bound but not yet judged. They exist in the space between mercy and wrath, waiting for the final verdict, the great day of judgment. That is why, when Jesus met the possessed man in the region of the Gadarenes, the demons cried out, "Have you come to torment us before the time?" They knew their fate was sealed, but not yet fulfilled. There is a time appointed for their end, and until that moment, they are permitted to roam, restrained only by divine command. Why doesn't God destroy them now? Because every act of God is perfect in timing. Every decree has a season, every judgment a moment. The existence of evil is not a sign of God's weakness, but of his patience. Through their rebellion, the fallen reveal the consequences of freedom misused. Through their darkness, God's light shines even brighter, for the universe must see the contrast, the truth of what it means to stand with or against the Creator. And so the fallen remain, not because they escaped His power, but because their continued existence serves His plan. They are evidence, they are warning, they are the mirror of what happens when pride stands before holiness. In the courts of heaven, justice is not rushed, it is precise, it is eternal. God's delay is not denial, it is demonstration. He is showing all creation what true justice looks like. Justice that cannot lie, cannot fail, cannot contradict itself. The fallen angels are living proof that even beings of immense power cannot outrun divine law. Their rebellion echoes through time, but so does God's restraint, the unshakable reminder that His mercy and justice walk hand in hand. And one day, that mercy will end. The chains will tighten, the abyss will open, and what was allowed for a season will be silenced forever. But for now, their existence continues, as shadows within creation, whispers in the dark, until the appointed hour when eternity itself will render its final judgment. The question echoes through every generation. If God is all-powerful, why doesn't He simply destroy the fallen angels? Why allow their existence, their whispers of temptation, their influence upon the earth? To understand this, we must look not through human anger, but through divine purpose. God's power is absolute, but His justice is perfect. Every act He performs is not a reaction, but a revelation of truth. He doesn't destroy simply because destruction does not reveal His glory. Redemption does. When the angels fell, their rebellion was not against weakness, but against holiness itself. They challenged not just the throne, but the very order of the universe, the foundation of justice and free will. And God, in His wisdom, did not annihilate them immediately, because even their existence now serves a purpose, to reveal the full story of good and evil, to show creation what happens when perfection turns away from light. Imagine a courtroom where the guilty demand judgment, but the judge withholds his sentence, not from mercy alone, but from a higher truth, that the evidence must first be seen by all creation. The fallen angels, though bound by spiritual law, are still allowed to exist so that humanity may witness the true cost of rebellion, and so that the righteousness of God may be revealed to all who ever lived. It's written that God's ways are higher than ours. While we cry for punishment, He prepares a final reckoning so complete that none can question it. The time of their destruction has not yet come, because justice delayed is not justice denied. It is justice perfected. The fallen ones, like actors in a divine drama, are permitted to move, to tempt, to deceive, but only within the boundaries set by God. Even Satan himself could not touch Job without divine permission. That story wasn't about Satan's power, it was about God's sovereignty. The same truth applies today. They move, but only as long as it serves His plan. Some may ask, why let them exist at all? Because their continued existence shows the strength of God's mercy and the endurance of His plan. Every soul that resists their darkness, every believer that chooses faith over fear, becomes a testimony to divine victory. If evil were destroyed too soon, faith would never have the chance to shine. The fallen angels remain as witnesses, not of victory, but of defeat. Their rebellion, once fueled by pride, now serves to glorify the very God they tried to overthrow. Even in their corruption, they cannot escape His authority. Every attempt to destroy, deceive, or corrupt is still woven into his purpose because nothing stands outside of God's will. In the book of Revelation, they are already judged. Their sentence is written. Their end is sealed. But the execution of that judgment awaits the appointed time. The world is the stage where humanity chooses its side, the side of truth or the side of deception. And when that final day comes, the universe will see not just the punishment of evil, but the triumph of righteousness. For now, their existence tests hearts, strengthens faith, and reminds us that our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers of darkness in heavenly realms. But remember this, even their power is temporary. They operate under divine restraint, bound by limits they cannot cross. Their roaring may sound fierce, but the Lion of Judah remains king. Every temptation they whisper, every fear they spread, God turns it into an opportunity for growth, courage, and faith. He allows the storm so we can learn to stand. He allows the night so we can see the light. And one day, when all has been revealed, the same heavens that once trembled at their rebellion will echo with songs of victory. The fallen will face the justice they cannot escape, and every creature will know God's patience was not weakness, but power under perfect control. So when you ask, why doesn't God destroy them yet? Remember, He already has. Their fate is sealed. They walk in borrowed time, under borrowed breath. Their end is coming, and it will be so absolute, so final, that no being in heaven or on earth will ever dare to rebel again. The story of fallen angels isn't about their survival. It's about the endurance of God's justice. It's a warning, a prophecy, and a promise that every shadow will meet its light and every lie will bow before the truth. When the angels fell, they did not just rebel against God's command. They tore through the very fabric of divine harmony. The heavens shook, the stars dimmed, and creation itself trembled under the weight of their betrayal. Yet even then, God did not annihilate them. Why? Because the Creator's justice is not like human vengeance. It is absolute, bound to the eternal law He Himself established. Every being, angelic or human, was created under divine law. If God destroyed the fallen angels instantly, it would mean that His word could be undone by emotion. But God is not moved by rage. He is moved by truth. His justice cannot contradict itself. He decreed that all creatures with free will must face judgment, not erasure. That is why they were cast down, not unmade. The prison of the fallen is not mercy. It is law. They exist, bound in chains of their own making, waiting for the appointed time when judgment will be fulfilled. Their punishment is not yet complete because creation's story is not yet complete. There is also another mystery, one that theologians and mystics have whispered about for centuries. The fallen angels are part of a divine paradox. They serve a role, even in their rebellion. Their existence exposes the depth of darkness so that light can be understood. Without opposition, virtue would have no meaning. Without temptation, obedience could not be proven. The fallen ones are not just enemies. They are instruments of divine contrast. Through them, God demonstrates not weakness, but sovereignty. He allows them to exist because even their evil cannot escape His plan. In the book of Job, Satan appears before God, not as an outlaw breaking in, but as a permitted adversary. Even in rebellion, he is under divine authority. God's patience with the fallen is not a sign of defeat. It is the ultimate declaration of control. For a king to destroy his enemy is power, but for a king to use his enemy's rebellion to fulfill his own plan, that is absolute dominion. Yet there is another layer still. The fallen angels were created immortal. Their essence cannot die because they were not born. They were made from divine command. God cannot destroy what he made eternal without breaking the order of his own creation. To do so would mean contradicting his nature. Thus, their punishment is existence itself. They are immortal, but severed from light. Eternal beings trapped in timeless suffering. That is their hell. It is not fire that burns them, but the absence of God's presence. The farther they fall, the colder eternity becomes. And even now, they are not idle. They whisper through the ages, influencing, corrupting, deceiving, not because they can overthrow heaven, but because misery loves to multiply. The farther humanity drifts from the divine, the closer it moves to their darkness. But the story does not end with despair. In every shadow cast by the fallen, there is a reminder of light. Every temptation resisted, every prayer whispered in darkness, it defies them. Humanity's free will, given by God, is the very weapon that restrains the fallen. God's refusal to destroy them instantly is not abandonment. It is strategy. He will end them, but in the fullness of time, when justice and mercy are perfectly balanced. Until that day, they remain a reminder that rebellion cannot escape consequence, and that God's justice, though delayed, is never denied. When the final judgment comes, the fallen will not be destroyed by wrath, but by truth. The word that made them will unmake their dominion. And then, silence. The eternal rebellion will end, not in battle, but in the voice of the one who said, "Let there be light." From the very beginning, God's plan was never to simply destroy the fallen. It was to overcome them. Destruction is easy, but redemption, that is divine. The Creator does not act out of rage or impulse. His justice is perfect, and his patience eternal. Every act of rebellion has its appointed time to be judged. Every lie will be exposed under his light. Even the fallen angels, those who turned from his glory, serve a purpose in the grand design. Their rebellion became the mirror that reveals the depth of human choice. Their deception gave birth to discernment. Their darkness defined the brilliance of the light. And so, the reason God cannot destroy the fallen angels yet is because his story with humanity is not finished. In the book of Revelation, the archangel Michael rises once more. A great war in heaven unfolds again, not to replay the past, but to fulfill it. Evil is allowed to exist, not because God is powerless, but because his justice must be complete. Every being must stand before him, knowing why judgment is deserved. When the final day comes, the fallen will face not a vengeful destruction, but divine truth, a truth so pure it burns away all lies. Their immortality, once their pride, will become their punishment. Eternal separation from God, that is the true fire of hell. The fallen cannot be destroyed because they were made eternal, just like all spirits. To unmake them would mean to unmake his own creation, something that goes against the very nature of the Eternal One. God does not erase, he redeems, or he confines. That is why they are bound in darkness, waiting for the appointed hour, the day of judgment. This is not weakness, it is sovereignty. It is order, the same divine order that keeps the stars in orbit, that governs time, that shapes the destiny of all creation. For every soul on earth, this truth carries weight. The battle that began in heaven continues within the human heart. Every act of kindness, every prayer, every refusal to give in to darkness. It echoes in the unseen realms. The fallen tremble not at swords or fire, but at faith, at obedience, at love that endures through suffering. When you choose forgiveness over hate, you strike them down. When you pray instead of curse, their grip weakens. When you walk in light, you fulfill what even angels envy. Free will redeemed through love. That is why God waits. He waits for us, for humanity, to complete the story. The fall of angels was not the end. It was the beginning of our redemption. And so the question changes, not why doesn't God destroy them? But will we stand with him until he finishes what he started? The scriptures remind us, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay," says the Lord. That repayment will not be chaos. It will be perfect, divine order restored. When the last trumpet sounds, when the heavens open, when the King returns, the fallen will finally face justice, not because God suddenly chooses to act, but because the appointed time has come. Until then, even their existence serves his glory, for nothing escapes his hand. So remember, the story is not about their rebellion, it's about his reign. It's about the one who turns even betrayal into prophecy, even ruin into redemption. And if you hear these words now, it means you are part of that story. You are not powerless. You are chosen to resist the darkness not with anger, but with faith, humility, and truth, because the light that burns within you, that is what the fallen fear most. It is the image of God himself alive in your soul. And when the day comes and all creation stands before the throne, every knee will bow, angels, demons, and humans alike, and the universe will finally echo with one sound, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty." That is when the fallen will fall for the last time, not destroyed, but silenced forever, beneath the glory of the King who never needed to prove his power, because true power is not in destruction, it's in mercy, and mercy always triumphs. If this message touched your heart, pray in the comments, write your own words to God. Ask him for strength to walk in his light, for wisdom to recognize deception, and for faith that endures through every trial. Let this be more than a story. Let it be a call, because heaven is watching, and your voice matters.